everybody, it is Steve, your friendly neighborhood lawn gnome. Welcome back to That's Comical for another episode of Stats, Trends, and Picks, and if you happen to be watching on a Wednesday, happy new comic book day. Well, we are about to start it up again and do a brand new year of comic trends and statistics, and of course, to find out if I actually predicted correctly for the best reads of each week of the past month. So of course, we're going to be starting off with January 2022, and we're going to take a look at the statistics. Now, it's going to be a little bit shorter because we don't have a graph just yet because of the fact that we only have 1 month's worth of data. I am now officially debating on whether or not the end of 22 rolls around and I want to combine the 2022 statistics with the 2021 statistics in one beautiful bar graph. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but maybe if you guys want to encourage me, feel free. So, we're off to a very good start. It is definitely a very impressive start compared to where we were in January of 2021. We started off with a total of 57 comics. There could have been more, but a couple of them decided to get pushed off for another week or so. We're definitely seeing the supply and the paper issues starting to be a little bit less, and we're definitely starting to see more comics coming out when they say they're going to be coming out, and that's always very positive. And I don't really know what to say about these statistics, but what I am for sure of is the fact that the others column, because as you can see, the Boom Studios and the Aftershock column have officially been eliminated, and they have now been consolidated into the other, which includes companies like AWA Upshot, Dark Horse, etc., etc. But DC, Marvel, and Image, the big three, not just the big two anymore, it really is the big three, are going to be singled out just because of who they are and the inventory that they provide to the customer. And Marvel is slightly behind DC and Image, who are tied, but it is definitely the other column that saw where my reading went to the most, with a total of 19. And when we take a look at the percentages, it is the exact same thing. We have a tie, 22.81% and 21.05%. So this could have been almost a perfect pie chart split into quarters, because Marvel, Image, and DC almost were a quarter of my reading. That was a quarter for DC, a quarter for Marvel, and a quarter for Image, and the rest of it would have been all the other indie companies. It would have been pretty interesting. I probably would have just cranked out a pie graph just because it would have been cool to see my reading separated into 4 equal pieces. And as I said, we're not going to be seeing a chart today merely because of the fact that we just don't have the data yet. We need at least 2 months worth of data to start seeing those bright and beautiful colors showing up on my computer screen, but February 2022. So let's go straight into the comics. And for me, starting off the first month of the year, we saw 2 of my predictions correct, and 2 of them got different top choices. But I will still say that regardless, some of those reads were still very good reads, and they are still going to be recommended to you. So, for the first week of January 2022, I thought that it was going to be Marvel Comics Inferno number 4, the final installment of Jonathan Hickman's run on X-Men, and was it bad? No, it wasn't. But was it great? No, it wasn't. It was definitely something that made me feel very upset. The corporate office of X-Men is just an absolute mess at Marvel Comics, and it made me so upset to see Jonathan Hickman basically do the very best that he could to try and finish on a high note, and I think he did do just that, but it just made me very, very sour knowing that I spent a lot of time and money on X-Men comics that were just mediocre at best. I mean, my attitude on Ten of Swords, it's terrible. The Hellfire Gala, I barely even looked at. But also some of the titles that showed so much promise, especially because of the creators that were behind it, like Al Ewing's Sword in particular. They really didn't have the opportunity to flex their creative muscles, and these comics just ended up being mediocre at best, and these runs ended up going completely by the wayside in less than 20 issues. And now we're going into Destiny of X, and I'm just going to say, besides the Sabretooth miniseries that is coming out in February, I am not planning to read any of this current X run at all. And I just feel that this whole group of people has no idea what they're doing. But what did end up being my top read of the week? Well, I give it to the little comic that could. I gave it to Boom Studios' Buckhead #2. This is a comic book that I'm sure nobody knows about because nobody's reading it. It is a very interesting thriller, which is very video game based, and it's got a couple of horror elements in it. It is definitely a cool and creative comic book. It's only going to be 5 issues, but I loved this second issue, and it made me more curious as to what's going to be coming in the next 3. The first issue was very good too. So I would highly recommend that if you are into horror, thrillers, and especially if you like lots and lots of cool video games, Buckhead is a comic that you should check out. For the second week of January 2022, it's no surprise. I gave it to the third and final installment of Robin and Batman from DC Comics, and of course from Jeff Lemire and Justin Wynn doing the art. Jeff Lemire is just firing on all cylinders, guys. Between this, Maze Book, Swamp Thing, Green Hell, Primordial, and a whole bunch of things that he's got coming next this year, and especially considering the fact that Image has locked him into a deal to write directly for them. I will just say that I'm glad that he did give DC a little bit of time, because Robin and Batman and currently Swamp Thing, Green Hell are 2 of my favorite DC comics that are out there right now. But Robin and Batman, this was a great ending to 3 issues that I'm really upset could have been a little bit longer. They should have been, as far as I'm concerned, just because it was that good. But if you never read another Batman comic in your entire life, or if you've never read a Batman comic and want to start, I would highly recommend this 3-issue miniseries. It is such a great read, and the art is gorgeous. For the third week of January, I was planning to give it to a new Batman miniseries from Chip Zdarsky over at DC Comics, Batman the Knight, which is a story that we have gotten so many times. It is Batman's origin story, taking place from the day after his parents' funeral to the day that he puts on the cape and cowl. Now, do we need this? No, we don't. Is it bad? No, it's not. I mean, the main reason why I picked this up was not even because of Batman. It's just because it's Chip Zdarsky. Chip Zdarsky is an excellent writer. If you're reading anything that he's currently writing, whether it's the current Devil's Reign title, which is eventually going to spawn a new Daredevil title, or if you're reading Stillwater or anything else that he's currently writing, because he's writing a lot of good stuff. This was not bad. For a Batman story, not bad at all. But once again, this is something that we have gotten many times before, but because of the writer, I wanted to just see what his attitude and take on this iconic character would be. But my favorite read of the week was Silver Surfer Rebirth #1. This is a 5-issue miniseries from Marvel Comics, and it reunites the team that wrote Silver Surfer in the 1990s, and that, of course, is Ron Mars doing the writing and Ron Lim doing the art. Now, I know these guys. I'm a big Ron Mars fan. Right now, Almost American is one of the best titles. As a matter of fact, Almost American almost was the top pick of the week here, and it would have been really cool to actually see that happen, just because of the fact that Almost American 1 through 3, whenever I read them, earned the top spot on my stats, trends, and picks. But I didn't give it to that 4th issue, not to say that it was bad. As a matter of fact, it almost got #1. But Silver Surfer Rebirth #1 was just flat out 90s fun. This was so nostalgic for me. The writing and the art was just so much fun to read, and every image was so cool to look at. It just reminded me of being a kid and reading all those great 90s comics, because they were just so full of life and color and action-packed. And just to see Silver Surfer back in the comics again, because the last time he got a miniseries was Silver Surfer Black by Donny Cates, and that's also a very interesting and gorgeous title to look at. But I don't know what's going to come of this Silver Surfer miniseries, but what I do know is I'm definitely looking forward to issue #2 in February. And for the last week of January 2022, I picked correctly, and I gave it to the comic book that everybody was so excited for ever since it was officially announced, and that, of course, was from Image Comics, the return of Brian K. Vaughan and Fiona Staples' Saga issue number 55. Now, just so you guys know, I'm not going to be reading the floppies. I just wanted to celebrate with all the people that have been waiting for this comic book to return after a 3.5-year hiatus, and just pick up the big comeback issue just because of the fact that it was a celebration of this story that people have been waiting to continue for such a long time. I have all 9 trades, and I've read all 9 trades in anticipation for issue number 55, and I love this story. The world building, the character development, all of the crazy twists and turns that you see in the pages of these books are incredible. But I am still just going to continue to read the story via trades. But, like I said, I bought issue 55 in celebration, knowing that it was going to be my best pick. I knew that it was, but I will also say that Gunslinger Spawn number 4, also from Image Comics, came so damn close. Just because Gunslinger Spawn is awesome, the return of Clown was awesome, and Violator, and I will just say when it comes to comic book consistency, you will never get a truly horrible read from anything that comes out in the Spawn universe. Whether you're only reading one series or if you're reading all 4 like me, and the other main reason why I am reading all 4 is because the price is right. $2.99 for each comic. And the same is going to be for Saga. With issue 55, it was only $2.99, and it's going to continue being $2.99, so I don't feel that there's really any skin taken off my back. But I will be looking forward to volume 10 of the trades, and I will be able to continue to read the entirety of Saga. And I also have a feeling that when we do get the last issue, because I'm pretty sure that this second story arc is going to get us to the very, very end, whether it's issue 100, issue 125, issue 150, I don't know. But I will definitely pick up the final issue just to say the fond farewells. I wish I could have the floppies entirely, but I just cannot. But yes, Saga 55 was awesome. And I'm sure all the fans that have been waiting for Saga to return enjoyed it too, and I'm just excited for what comes next. So those are my picks in January 2022. So what are my predictions for February 2022? Well, I am going to go out on a limb and say that I may get at least 2 correct, just because of the fact that I have such anticipation. But if I get all 4 of these correct, that would be awesome. Will there be a tie? Who knows? There's so many great titles coming out in February. So I'm starting off the first week of February with a brand new series from AWA Upshot called Primos. It is a 4-issue series, and it's a very interesting story to me because it revolves around Mayan culture. So when I was 10 years old, I was obsessed with Mayan culture. The number system was my favorite thing in the world, and if it wasn't for the Zika virus, my wife and I probably would have went to see some ancient ruins in Mexico on our honeymoon, but we didn't. But Primo seems to be a very interesting story about Mayans who are abducted by aliens, and they're all family members. They come back to Earth, and then they want to seek revenge on their people when they find out that they were extinct. Did I mention that when these Mayan people were abducted, it was when the Mayan tribe was thriving? So that's what makes this title very interesting to me, and I'm really curious to see how it's going to go. The second week of February is bringing me a title that I have been aching for. It is the 3rd series of the Maestro trilogy from Marvel Comics. Peter David, of course, is coming back to write the final chapter in this incredibly fun story about the future version of Hulk called the Maestro. And I am very excited for Maestro World War M because it's going to pit him against characters like Abomination and Namor the Submariner. Oh my goodness, after seeing Doctor Doom in Maestro War and Pax in 2021, I am just really excited to see how Peter David is going to wrap up this Maestro trilogy. And it also kind of makes me hope that eventually, if they ever decide to make Hulk movies in the MCU, that Maestro will actually be part of the Hulk storyline, because there's so much richness to this version of Bruce. For the third week of February, I am giving it to an indie title from an indie company that I had never heard of called Red 5. The story is called The Fictionauts. So, I like crazy creative stories. My wife is a big fan of a book series called the Thursday Next series, which is written by an author named Jasper Fforde, which is the story of a detective who goes into various books to solve mysteries. So this is a very similar idea. I tried to read those books and I didn't really like them that much, but this seems like a really cool idea that is very similar. It's about a bunch of superheroes that go into various books and fight crime. So, just reading the little blurb about this story of superheroes just got me very excited, and I had to reach out to my comic store to let them know to please get this because the indie titles, especially from smaller indie companies, don't usually get bought in mass quantities. So, I am really looking forward to Fictionauts #1. And the final comic book of February, I am giving it to a 4-issue miniseries, which is called Step by Bloody Step. It is written by Cy Spurrier, who has recently written The Way of X over in the X universe in 2021, and also is currently writing Rush by Vault Comics, which is a big favorite amongst the comic book community here on YouTube. But what makes me excited for Step by Bloody Step is the fact that this entire 4 issues is going to be silent. It is going to be based on the visuals. A picture's worth 1,000 words, they say, so knowing that it's going to be an entirely visually driven story makes me very excited, because I will say that whenever I read a comic and it turns out to be a silent issue, it always seems to be something that hits home for me. One of my favorite comics that I read in 2021 was W. Maxwell Prince's Haha, and my favorite issue was number 3 because it was a silent issue. So the silent issue is something that to me is very, very special, and I'm really curious to see how this comic series is going to turn out. And that wraps up my stats, trends, and picks for January 2022, everybody. I would like to know what some of your favorite reads in January 2022 were, and what you think is something that might be worth reading in February 2022. Please put your comments in the box below, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next one.